Meet Jessica, a fourth grade teacher in the Governor Mifflin School District who grew up in Miami Beach, Florida. Over 10 years ago, she and her husband, who is originally from Berks County, moved here. Jessica is an active community volunteer with one daughter who will soon be entering first grade.
I come from a very diverse Jewish family, a real mix of backgrounds, practices, beliefs, and traditions. To my dad's family, Jewish culture and values were the most important part of being Jewish, more than any religious observance. My mom's family, on the other hand, were very observant and can trace multiple generations of rabbis back into the 1700s. My family also represents the wide-ranging diaspora of Jews. I have cousins, aunts, and uncles who settled in Cuba, then Miami. They brought a Latin perspective to our family's Judaism, with songs in Ladino and special flan at holiday meals. And then there's my mom's dad, my Zaidi, who was born and raised in Palestine well before Israel became a country. Whether it was singing in Yiddish at our Shabbat table or hearing stories of his long journey of migration from Israel to America during World War I, he brought a sense of deep roots to my Jewish identity from an early age. He made sure I knew where I came from. This sense that Jews come from all over the world and practice their Judaism differently extended to my neighborhood and my community growing up. On my street alone, our neighbors were Syrian Jews from Panama, where I spent Shabbat lunch eating Sephardic cholent. Down the street lived Bukharian Jews from the former Soviet Union, and Jewish families from all over the world. As a kid, I played with Orthodox girls from New York and secular friends from Israel. My parents emphasized that to be Jewish was to value family and tradition. In my family, Shabbat dinner was a sacred time not to be missed, even as a grumpy teenager. It was a time the whole family came together to share the blessings and a meal. This is a practice I try to continue in my home now with my daughter. Even if it's pizza Shabbat with challah from the freezer, it's one of the foundations of my identity as a Jew. My background also helped me to really appreciate the value system that is part of being Jewish, and all of the multitude of ways of carrying out religious practices and traditions, none of which are necessarily the right way. I learned from an early age that being a Jew comes with a responsibility to help make the world a little better. Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, is at the core of my Jewish identity. It is one of the reasons why I'm a teacher. My Zaidi taught me that Jews set an example through their actions. I watched him and my bubby welcome refugees to our community, plant trees in Israel, and practice acts of loving kindness in their day-to-day life. I try to be that example now for my students, and it is why I try to be an ambassador for our Jewish community. I believe we live at a time when Jews need to show up and speak up, not just for our own community, but also on behalf of others who share a similar history to our own. As a teacher, when my class talks about family traditions, I make sure to share mine, and I make sure to model every day what it looks like to not just be tolerant of others, but to also be empathetic and compassionate. This is my responsibility as a Jew. I think that belonging to a Jewish community means being active and involved. It means finding what you love about being Jewish. I love that there are so many opportunities to be involved in a real meaningful way here in our community. I have found a real place to be active and engaged at Oheb Shalom, through sisterhood, through teaching religious school, and singing with the choir. Another good example is Federation Shabbat B'Yachad. It's a wonderful program that once a month brings diverse families together at a home to celebrate Shabbat. It's a great way to help connect Jewish families in our community to each other. Reflecting on my connection to Judaism makes me think about my family, especially my role models growing up, my mom, my grandmothers, and all the fiercely independent and strong Jewish women in my life. I want my daughter, who is named for my bubby Rose, to appreciate their contributions and their differences. I want her to be proud of her Jewishness and to know she comes from a line of strong, powerful Jewish women. I want her to understand the importance of Jewish family and the value of having a diverse Jewish community. This is not only my wish for her, but it's also my hope for our community, that we celebrate our diversity, support each other, and stand together proudly.
The Jewish Federation of Reading hopes you enjoyed this story in getting to know a fellow Jew living in Berks County. Federation is the central organization for issues affecting all Jews in Berks County. It represents us all, working closely in cooperation with local synagogues and community partners. Your gift to Federation supports our Jewish community here in Berks County in Israel, and around the world. You provide cultural programs through the JCC. You assist Berks County Jews in need through Jewish Family Service. You combat the growing problem of anti-Semitism. You fund Jewish education for the next generation. To continue these services, we ask you to participate in a very special community campaign. During 2020, generous community members will match dollar-for-dollar campaign increases from both new donors and longtime contributors. Every new or additional campaign dollar donated in 2020 becomes two. If you're not yet a contributor, please consider starting. If you're already a contributor, please consider increasing your gift. Your campaign contribution to Federation keeps our story of Jewish life going here in Berks County.